Lovely shirt, by the way. Which shirt is this?
This is well, I don't know if it's not a real shirt. It's just Portugal. It's like some weird Portugal
Yeah,
top.
and I was gonna say that looks like a Portuguese football shirt.
It's a retro top. I
Can
forgot what we bought it because we lived in a place called Little Portugal last year. Me and my mates in South
All
London,
right.
but it's got a high. It's got like the most number of people outside of Iberia that are Portuguese. It's called Little Portugal, so it's in
Can
London.
you
But
get me one for Bruno?
let's talk about him. I want to know your
Yeah,
immediate
sure.
reaction when he got sent off. I just want to know just what you were thinking.
Explicit content.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. This is the video you've all been waiting for. Today I'm joined by the big man Bakar. After, well, how do I even describe the previous week? It was less the week in general for your team, Bakar, and more the fact that one player in particular got sent off.
Hello, Jack. Hello, to all the listeners and viewers. I mean, every sort of wild card in Game Week 6 who did not choose Palmer and Dwight McNeil had more or less a similar week to mine. But just because I sort of seem to own this particular player that you're referring to, I guess it gets more highlighted because people tend to enjoy it. I mean, I often find it funny that, when you pick a template player, you're like, oh, he's always following the crowd. When you pick someone different and that doesn't work out, you're like, you see a lot of people sort of demeaning the pick and berating it and,
Yeah.
bringing you down. But I mean, personally, I mean, it was a disastrous week. Let's face it. It's been a really poor start of the season. But as funny and as idiotic as it may sound, I'm sitting at like a close to a 3.5 million rank. I still think I've been happy with the decisions that I've made this season.
Yeah.
Like legit, I don't think I regret too many decisions this season. Even with the benefit of hindsight, if I look at my thought processes, my rationale over the season, I genuinely believe that I've just come out on the negative side of variance, and with the passage of time, I'll be fine. Like honestly, at this point in time, off air, you were asking what was my reaction with Bruno. I was actually at a wedding at that point, and
Ah,
I
yeah.
just checked the halftime score. I didn't even watch the game. I saw the score, and the first thing that I could think of was what I tweeted, which was basically some explicit content on my X. And yeah, I mean, you've only got to laugh when these kind of things happen. It's fine. It's part of life. It's part of the game. There are bigger things to worry about. And what I did was I took some time off my socials. I didn't check them for 2 3 days. I've come back fresher with a fresher mind. Um, Thankfully, there's not much to think about this week when it comes to FPL anyway,
Yeah.
which is going to obviously help me going forward. And then there's an international break coming as well. So within no time, this will be part of history. And before game week 8, I'll be looking in a much more reasonable position.
Yes, absolutely. And I will say this: I don't want to sound like patronizing or like a school teacher, but we don't need like the negative comments that are personal, guys. Like, look, there's playful banter. There's a famous quote
Yeah.
right there, which out of context not great, but you know what I mean. Like, when someone gets a red card, you're allowed to like take the mick. It's funny. That's part of the game. In the same way that you are allowed to gloat if you have Palmer this week. But when it gets a bit too far, it's not funny. And look, I've been on the internet personally for a long time now. I know this sort of stuff happens. Bakar knows this sort of stuff happens, but I know like the majority of you are completely cool. Just there's no need to get personal with abuse and stuff. I'm only talking to a small number of people here, as you know, Bakar. But look, I'm wearing my Portugal top. It's not on purpose. Just banter.
Of course, it's not.
You know.
Yeah, but I mean, my point being that, pretty much every game week 6 wildcard has had it really rough over the
That's
past
true.
couple of
I mean, I
weeks
got
because,
5 more points than
because
you. I can't exactly say, wow, I had a great week.
I mean, not just that. I mean, even if you look at the previous weeks, the whole point of wildcarding in game week 6 was to make sure that you get Salah in game week 4 and 5, attack the Liverpool fixtures.
Yeah.
And Salah's gotten what, 8 points in those two games at home to Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth. So that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Then people have wildcarded out of Salah, brought in these Arsenal assets at home to Leicester, and they tend to they create like 4 xG against Leicester. Saka creates 4 big chances, doesn't even get a single assist. I had Saka captain, so that was really frustrating. And then they concede twice from very low XG shots against Leicester, who have failed to score in pretty much every game this season. They haven't really done much. So it was frustrating. And I mean, it does sort of tend to um, get infuriating at times because these things add up. If it was one thing or one event or the other, it would have been acceptable. But when everything is going against you, then you're sort of looking at yourself in the mirror and looking at what you've done wrong. But then Palmer goes on and scores 4 goals in one half. I'll be honest, I wasn't considering him on a wild card, and I don't think I'll be getting him this week either. Uh, but he has close to 38, 39% ownership,
Mm.
close to my rank. And of course, that's basically decimated pretty much my week. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's fine. If I still believe if I keep playing methodically the way I do, I'll be fine over 32 weeks because it's still 6 weeks. There's a long way to go. There's no need to be negative or to, let that affect my decision-making process. I think honestly, if you've had a rough week, which I know a lot of people have, the best thing to do is not to look at your rank for the next 4 to 5 weeks. Just forget about it. Because the last thing you want is to look at your rank right now and make rash decisions or irrational decisions on the basis of it, which could, which could end or lead you to making even further hasty decisions, which is not what you want to do. So forget about the rank. Just keep playing normally. Look at your rank after 5, 6 weeks, and I'm sure you'll be in a better place than you are in right now.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I had Abdul on the channel yesterday, and he's in the 4 millions, but he said that by Gameweek 8 last year he was something like 2 million, 2.5 million, and he finished in the top 50k. And he could have done even better. So yeah, it's definitely not all over if you've got a rank like Bakar's or like mine at this point of the season. But yeah, it's good to look forward and let's now have a
It's
look
funny.
at
It's
the
funny though. It's
next game
funny
week.
though. It's funny though. It's funny though. I mean, I mean, I'm finding it to be challenging, but it's nice that
Yeah,
you're coming up against this kind of variance. It's fine because you will encounter these kind of stages at various stages of the season where things will go with you as well, right? I have often noticed in FPL that when things sort of go for you, they really, really go well for you because you sort of build up that momentum. I mean, we were streaming last year as well, Jack. You must recall there was the spell of what 14 or 15 green arrows that I had last
yeah,
season.
yeah.
It's all about getting on a run. Once you start doing that, I'm currently in the exact opposite of that, where I'm sort of my rank is spiraling down, but it doesn't take much time to turn it around. And my team actually looks fine on paper, which is actually scary because whenever my I look at my team and whenever it looks fine on paper, I even inevitably end up getting a red arrow this season. But
Yeah,
again, this week it looks fine, and
yeah.
it is what it is.
So then let's talk about your team for this week. As you said, it does look good. A good team rating, good game week rating in the 90s is what you want to see. A lot of players that have good fixtures. Where do you want to start? Let's just start with Bruno because we might as well. He's on the thumbnail, and people want to know what you're now going to do with him now that his red card has been rescinded and he no longer has a ban. So he is going to play in this game. What are your thoughts with him?
I'll be honest, I would have kept him even if the red card did not get rescinded because I have good cover on the bench.
Really? For three? So you would have
Yeah.
kept him for 3 weeks or 2 games, including a cup game?
At least this week because Rogers has Man United at home, and I think he's a perfectly able replacement. So I would have kept him this week,
Oh, I see. Yeah, you have Calvert-Lewin as well. Yeah.
and he's fallen down in price, so I would have kept him. It hasn't really changed much for me, at least not this week. Yeah, I mean, I might have sold him after the next week or something, but all that this news has changed for me is the fact that I'm going to keep him this week. I'm going to bench Rogers. I'm looking forward to more pain again. I can see Rogers scoring, Bruno blanking, maybe even getting a red card again.
That would be so funny.
And
Imagine
I mean,
back-to-back
this
red
is
cards. Has that ever happened before where a player's got back-to-back red cards in the same competition, therefore having his previous one rescinded? Surely it hasn't. That'd be amazing.
I mean, given how the season is going, I mean, I won't be surprised if I end up with egg on my face at this current rate. But yeah, I'm going to play Bruno for sure. I'm going to be there for whenever he gets any kind of attacking return this season. I'm just married to the idea of keeping him. I'll be honest.
That's
And
fair.
it's like okay, let's talk rationally. Are there any other midfielders in that price range who are head and shoulders above him?
Yes.
Who? Anyone who I don't own?
Um. Okay.
I don't agree when if you say Luis Diaz, I don't necessarily agree because Luis Diaz is a bit of a minutes risk.
Not Diaz. Not. I would
Getting
say there are
sub,
players that are
he's getting
that
sub early.
I don't know. I'd look at. I like Foden. That's a player I like. And I know. I know that
Foden is more expensive.
I know
Foden
he's
is
more
way more
expensive. I
expensive.
know, but if
I don't have anything in the bank.
how many
I don't have
transfers do
anything
you
in the
have
bank.
actually? How many transfers?
I have, I think, two free transfers. Yeah, two free transfers.
Like you could. Like there is scope for you to go Bruno up and then someone else down in your team if you wanted to. If you wanted to, there are routes out of Bruno. It's just this week I probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah, who is this? Who is that someone else?
It's tough. It would probably have to be Porro, and
There's
he has a good run coming up.
exactly, there's no one because Porro is precisely in my team for the upcoming run of fixtures. I think he will be a very popular buy in game week 8. So why sell him?
You
I'm
could
not
look at
even playing
someone
Porro
like
this week. I don't
someone like
need him.
a Madison or a Johnson, but again, maybe not this week. But it depends how you think that game's going to go.
I like Brandon Johnson actually. I like Brandon Johnson. There's Bowen as well,
Bowen,
who's all
yeah, but
right. But my point is that these picks are not way better than Bruno. I guess you can say that they're in a similar level. They're not enough for me to use a transfer to sell from one for the other. Is basically what I'm trying to say. If there was a huge difference, I would have sold Bruno. There isn't a huge difference, and I want to keep Bruno for the weeks to come simply because of this reason. I don't care whether or not he's gotten FPL points or whether or not he's gotten a red card. I am looking at it from a long-term perspective where I don't think there are enough midfielders in his price range to actually justify swapping one for the other. And he's one I think I would want in the weeks to come with the fixtures that United have anyway. I know United are poor, but that does not necessarily mean that Bruno is a poor asset. He hasn't delivered yet this season, but I still maintain his numbers have been good enough to for him to have gotten some returns, which he hasn't because he's been unlucky.
yeah, fair enough. You know my thoughts. I've said this from very early on, but I
I
don't
know
need to
your thoughts,
repeat
and I
them.
know the thoughts of I know your thoughts, and I know the thoughts of a lot of people who might be thinking that I'm in delusion. But I have my own play of playing this game,
Yes,
and I will stick to it.
that's fair. That's very fair. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the defense. Who are you starting this week?
I think the team pretty much picks itself. It would be uh, Lewis against Fulham. It would be double Arsenal defense.
Yeah,
If we get a leak that Lewis is benched, then I guess I can play one of the other defenders. But I doubt that will be the case because we have an international break coming up, so there's nothing as such left to rest him for. Um, yeah, keeper will be Flecken. Then in midfield, I'll have Bruno, I'll have Saka, I'll have Mbemo, and I'll have Semenyo. And then up front, I'll have Calvert-Lewin, I'll have Haaland and Solanke.
yeah. It's very strong. That's the thing.
That's exactly what I'm saying, right? And it's not just my team. When you look at your team, Jack, or
Yeah,
any other Game6 wildcarder, when he looks at their team, you've made the team for 4 to 5 weeks, so it is bound to be strong this week. There is no reason to rip up your plans for one player, i.e., Palmer, or to change drastically just because you're having a poor season, just because you're having a poor start. It's fine. Stay
yeah.
calm, play rationally. Don't look at the rank. Forget about what's been going on, and keep playing your natural game.
So, what are your thoughts this week with transfers? Is there any way that you can see yourself making one, or are you pretty set on rolling this week?
No, I'm absolutely set on rolling this week, actually, because I think there's a bit of a fixture swing from Game Week 8 onwards. When you look at City, when you look at
Mm.
Spurs, I think these are the two big teams to target in the weeks to come. I already have two from City, Haaland and Lewis, and two from Spurs, Lanky and Porro. But I want maybe one more from each. And I think I'll be looking at targeting those fixtures in game week 8 or 9. By then, I would have accumulated 3 to 4 transfers as well, so I can easily be more aggressive. I don't have any reason to be passive at my rank anyway. So I would want to attack the fixtures. And I don't think I'm missing out on too many good fixtures this week with the team that I have.
Yeah, that's fair. Interestingly, the Hub's AI has different sort of views for your team. It actually thinks that you potentially could make 2 transfers this week and get some upside this week. It thinks there's enough upside this week to warrant these 2 moves, which are Bruno out for Eze, which is, these are 2 players that have been quite controversial, I would say, so far to the extent that it's sort of like a data versus actual realized points player. And then with that money, upgrading Porro to Gvardiol. What do you think about that?
I think if I'm getting Guardiol, I may sell Saliba by game week 8 or 9.
Okay.
I want to keep Porro for sure.
Yeah.
I think he's probably the best defender to own from game week 8. So I'm not looking at selling him. And Eze is playing Liverpool this week, which isn't a great fixture anyway. So I don't want to use two
I
free
think it would be
transfers
Eze
just to
and bench
basic.
perhaps, which is I'm not sure about doing that. I mean, Eze's predicted. It's not that because actually Eze's predicted points remain so high. Like he's predicted 6.1 points this week. He's still predicted those high scores because of that, and that's the reason we had him from the start. Let's be fair.
It's projecting two transfers for me to basically get Guardiol, which I don't think is a big enough upgrade this
Yeah,
week.
that's
I
fair.
can easily make that transfer in 2 weeks' time. I mean, I have Lewis anyway from the City defense, so I don't necessarily have to go out of the way to get him. I also was considering Ederson actually on my wild card
Yeah,
instead of Flecken. I was considering Edison and let's say a dunk over Flecken and Porro. But one of the reasons I went with Flecken and Porro is because I wanted to have that flexibility of adding that third city later if need be. And I still don't want it to be taken away from me right now. Because even if I get Guardiol, not only do I have to make a benching decision in attack, who will I bench in defense? Because I have double Arsenal defense, I have Porro, I have Lewis. Who will I play Guardiola instead of?
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's an interesting set of moves that is probably more for the long term than this week. So even if you were
Exactly.
to
So
potentially do this down the line, I'm not sure. Gvardiol. I mean, talk about Gvardiol for just a minute or so here because there's no doubt he's a good pick, right? We saw again last game week getting a goal. He did amazing at the back end of last season. Are you thinking about him at all?
yes, that's exactly the point I'm trying to come to. So if by game week eight or
Oh yeah,
nine,
for Saliba. Sorry, yeah,
if I prefer Son over Foden,
yeah,
then there's every chance that I swap Saliba out for Guardiola,
yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes
right?
sense. Yeah,
That's that's this is why I think this is a fairly comfortable week for me in terms of rolling
sure.
because there's no high priority transfer to make, and saving this week would add like a lot of flexibility in the weeks to come.
Yeah. Let's round this video off then. As you said, it is a pretty simple week, really, with just a chat about captaincy. Any debate for you here at all?
I think so. I don't think it's as close as the previous week. I actually went with Saka last week.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, sorry. We need to, I did, yeah, let's give some credit here because that was a very brave move. For a lot of people that say that you are not boring, but, template, hardly any people did that. And the people that did, with the likes of Salah and Palmer especially, got rewarded. You, let's be honest, deserve to get rewarded just based on the game that Saka played. The fact that he was so high on bonus, the fact that that assist was taken away from him so late, I think you got very unlucky there not to get more than or not to get what you deserved. But yeah, you did it last week. What are you thinking this week?
The very fact that extra 2 points, which was technically 4 points from my team, got taken away from him. I found that about that today, actually. I hadn't looked at my
Really?
field team. Yeah,
Wow.
I hadn't looked at my field team. I had not used social media or checked my WhatsApp. And I only found out about that today. So I was like, okay, if it's happened, it's happened. Because
Yeah.
I mean, this is basically after the Bruno red card, where I basically just like completely switched off from everything. So I didn't follow what had happened after that. He was actually on 3 bonus points. So I was at least content with Saka getting 10 points. That was something. Now he's on 6. So that's basically next to nothing. 4 big chances created, no returns, just being the theme of the week, the theme of the season, basically. But I guess it is what it is. But um, I'm I'm leaning towards Haaland. I think it's fairly close. One of the reasons why I may go Haaland over Saka is because the fact that Saka has a equally good fixture as was the case last week, but this time Haaland is playing at home and against a lesser team than Newcastle
Yeah.
and against a worse defense. So that is sort of making me lean Haaland. And it's very rare that we see City and Haaland in particular blank or twice in a row, basically. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's probably not the rational way of thinking, but I'll give it more thought close to the deadline and look at some of the odds, etc. I don't think this is a foregone conclusion. I would say I'm 60-40 on Holland right now.
Yeah. I think I've said this in other videos. I think what's making me lean Haaland is the fact that I just don't necessarily know if Saka's shot output or I don't see him scoring 2 goals in that game, for example. I think he's slightly more creative, whereas Haaland, you know that he's bound to have decent chances in front of goal, and he's obviously more of a goal scorer than Saka, whereas Saka's more of a creator. Even though Saka is a midfielder, and obviously gets more points for a goal, I do see Haaland scoring too, and Saka maybe not scoring if both teams were to win 3-0, for example. So I think that's why I'm going to go with Haaland.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call. I think it's tricky though this week. Um, I do think that Saka's effective ownership will be lesser than 100 though. So even if he does
Yeah.
well, I'll sort of benefit from his points. Uh,
Does what happened last week give you more confidence to try it though, knowing that it was in hindsight the right call to make? Like you should have been rewarded for that, and you got unlucky. Does that give you confidence to try it again, or is it more like I sort of got away with it a little bit?
to be very honest, I wasn't as scared of Haaland's ceiling last week as I am this week. I think this
Okay.
week the ceiling is much bigger. You're right. This is exactly the same point that you were making that City could win 3-0 and Haaland could easily get a hat trick. His goal involvement is nuts, basically.
Yeah.
It's much higher than any other Arsenal player. So if Arsenal win 3-0, it doesn't necessarily have to be Saka scoring, twice or thrice. It could easily be 1 or 2 involvements at best. I think City will score a similar number of goals to Arsenal, and that's why it is trickier. Last week, I thought the opposite. In fact, when I looked at the bookmaker projections as well, Arsenal were well clear of City in terms of the projected number of goals, which is why I went with Saka. This week, it's very close between the two of them, which is why I don't really share the same confidence
Okay.
that I had last week.
That's very fair. Okay, I think that's going to do it for this one. I think we've covered most things, as I said earlier, as you said earlier. Not the most decisions to make this week, really. But Bakar, good luck this week. I hope we both have
Thank you
green
very much,
arrows.
Jack. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being a very gracious host. Looking forward to seeing you again after
I'm
the
not that gracious.
international break.
I'm not that. You know that I'm not that gracious.
I mean, any other person would have taken me to the cleaners. I think
No,
after
I
the
mean,
weeks that I've had, you were very gracious. I
I mean,
think.
I can't exactly sit here and like abuse you when my rank's at 2.2 mil. I've only got like a few more points than you. It's like 10 more points or something. It's like, you know my thoughts on Bruno, but the problem
Bruno,
with
as you seem to call him.
that's his
Bruno,
name.
as you seem to
That's
call
his
him.
name. Bruno Fernandes, isn't it? That's his name.
I'm still waiting for that Bruno pen that
Not going to come.
never seemed to.
United are
It's
bad.
not
That's
gonna
the
come.
main problem is that United are bad. That's the thing. It's their worst
They
start
are.
to a Premier League since 2002, and I think that's a big deal. But yeah, you know
Yeah,
my
they're
thoughts.
terrible.
Anyway, let's leave it there. Let's leave it there, my friend, and let's come back in a couple of weeks after the international break and see how Gameweek 7 went. And yeah, as you said, Gameweek 8 is there are more decisions to be made. Maybe selling Liverpool players, maybe getting City players in. That's going to be interesting, especially with Tottenham's fixture on as well. Want to see what Tottenham players you'd be looking at. But yeah, let's leave it there, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, let us know your thoughts on Bakar's team, on Bruno Fernandes, on your moves going forward, who you're going to captain in the comments down below. We will catch you on the next one.